regular meeting of the East Hampton Town Trustees of August 10th, and I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Arlene, can you do roll call, please?
Sure. John Aldridge.
Yes, here.
Francis Bach.
Here.
Ben Dollinger. I saw him here. There he is. EPD. Rick Drew.
Here.
Tim Garner.
Present.
Jim Grimes. Okay, we'll give him a minute to come in. Mike Mortensen.
Here.
Susan McGraw-Keeber.
Here.
And Bill Taylor.
Here.
And I don't see Chris Carrillo, but maybe he's here. Chris Carrillo? Okay.
I saw Chris there, is muted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Christopher. Okay.
And so is John muted.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with public comment. I know we have a guest here, Jeremy Morton from the East Hampton Point Marina. Jeremy?
Yes, hello.
All right. Hi, Jeremy. How are you? Are you there? There.
Well, you? Yes, I'm here. I must be a lag. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Do you have a landline available?
I probably do. Let me double check. Hold on one moment. My apologies.
No, it's okay. No worries. So how is everybody?
Good.
I'm sorry, did I miss something?
Well,
No. Jeremy was on his iPhone and it was all garbled, so I asked him if he had a landline available.
Okay,
So
I'm
I
calling back.
think he was going to call in with that.
Okay.
Hey, Francis, I'm good, thanks. How you doing? How's everybody?
I'm good, Chris. Good to see you.
Yeah, you as well. I think we'd all like to see each other in person sometime soon, huh?
Yeah,
that sounds nice.
On the
I
beach
like
with
my
some
spot
lobsters.
right here.
Yeah. Mike, I saw you yesterday, Mike Martinson, but you didn't see me. I don't know if you know my boat, but you came right by me. I gave you a little wave, but you were under that umbrella hiding out.
I think I realized it after I passed you.
It's been a nice
Sorry
couple days
if
in the water.
Sorry if I wasn't more
No problem.
approachable.
You have a new caller yet, Matt?
Hey guys, Ben Dollinger's here, so you know.
I don't
Hello,
have
everyone.
any new callers right now.
I'm still on the line. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but this is the best it's going to be able to do so.
Oh, is this Jeremy? Is this Jeremy?
Whoever just spoke,
Hello.
we do hear you.
That was him, Francis.
Is that
Okay.
you guys talking about
Jeremy.
me or someone else?
Yeah, Jeremy.
Okay.
Jeremy Morton, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, okay. So do you want to just go ahead with what you came to speak about?
Yeah, my apologies. I mean, I'm basically just caught in the town washing machine at this point. So I'm a prospective buyer. I represent the group that's or that we've been circling, buying, purchasing the EHP marina project. I've been in the Suffolk County wastewater washing machine for quite some time now, and I'm finally out of that. And now, after working with Eric at planning and the ZBA and with Kim at natural resources and all that, they had directed me to you with specific questions regarding expansion of the marina slips and what we were able to do and if it's possible and what that would require. And I was basically told to kind of ping you guys and to get any advice on how to do so if we were interested in doing so, and if it is even possible and what that would look like.
Who wants to take this?
Well, I have a question. There is a moratorium on docks in part of the harbor. Can someone explain maybe to the whole group where that delineation line is, please?
I can. North of Will Curl Highway is not in the prohibited area. I think that would encompass East Hampton Point.
And John, sorry,
John,
you said
can
that.
you speak up a little bit? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you, John.
North of Will Curl Highway is not a prohibited area for new docks or larger docks. I think
Thank
East
you,
Hampton
John.
Point is in that area.
Thank you. Has anyone on the board seen a prospective plan or concept for what type of expansion is being talked about?
I believe this is an investigative.
Yeah, this is purely just investigative and just an understanding conceptually what's possible, and then I would of course present much more formal planning. But yeah, just trying to get a feel for what's possible. How far into the water, what essentially just getting.
Your property's pretty close to the channel there.
Correct.
And currently, do you have slips outside your kind of makeshift outer bulkhead? You've sheathed the pilings to create a wave action stop.
Correct.
And is that the end of the current slip configuration, or are there pilings that you can go stern to there and extend further out currently?
Yeah, currently there's pilings that extend further west. So beyond the breakwater, there's pilings right now that are docking larger boats that extend further west, and obviously the only place we would be able to expand, based on the footprint of our lot, would be just directly west into the water, and that would be how we would achieve more slips.
How far are your outermost pilings from the channel currently?
From the channel?
Yeah.
I mean, they butt up right against the channel. The outermost pilings, like if you're coming from the other marina and you're coming out as if you were leaving Harbor Bistro and you're coming out there, our outer pilings on the north side are facing into the channel and run right up against it.
Okay. I mean, there's some room there, but you do have the shoal on the west side of the channel, which does create somewhat of a finite space for boating traffic, heading north and south. So
I think we're talking about two different channels.
Yeah, I
think Jeremy's talking about the channel on the north side of the marina that comes out from a creek. And I think,
correct.
Rick, you're talking about the main north-south channel.
correct.
So then we are in fact talking about two different.
Okay. So my question is, how far are your outer pilings from the main north-south navigable channel?
That is a question that I don't know because it's not reflected on the survey. So I guess I would have to be able to pinpoint where the north-south channel is, which would where would that document typically come up, or where would I find where that what?
Well, I think Suffolk County has some maps on where the dredging took place, and
okay.
I think Marine Patrol probably has data on that, and they do set buoys on both the east and west side of the channel.
Correct.
So those could be, general reference markers. They may be off by a few feet, but that would give you a general idea of, how much space is outside the channel in that area.
Okay.
Which I think is a good preliminary discussion, point, one of perhaps many.
Great. And would I be able to butt up against to the channel, or would I have to allow like a certain setback, or what would be the typical
I don't even
point
know.
of reference for that?
I think, personally, I'm not even near that point of discussion, but
yeah,
I think it's information we need to know, and then start to think about it.
Yeah, the meets and bounds of the channel are available in the last dredging documents. The whole thing's been surveyed and it's all marked out.
Okay. And where would I put the foil in? Where would I put the foil in to receive the dredging documentation? Which body?
Probably the Suffolk. I would try the Suffolk County Department of Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works handles the dredging. I believe that's correct, Bill.
Okay, wonderful. And then would this be a discretionary?
The channel is
Would
marked.
this be a discretionary probe by the town trustees? Or what? The channel's marked where?
Can you repeat that, Jeremy? I'm sorry.
Yeah, someone was about to say the channel is marked out and then it cut off.
The channel is marked out, on a map. It's all surveyed. The Suffolk County Department of Public Works does not allow any structures within the meets and bounds of the channel.
Okay.
So you have to get some information before you see how much actual space you have to consider.
Gotcha.
Jeremy, can I ask a question?
Of course.
What are you looking to do?
So basically, we're just trying to understand the full breadth of what we can do at the property. We are trying to understand if we can add, obviously just the nuts and bolts, and the easy answer for that is we would want to add slips if we could add slips. To obviously, of course, increase the revenue of the property and to make it more accessible for some of our new restaurant concepts and hotel clients, all of the things that are encompassed in the property itself. So the idea was to jump on here and just see if that was a possibility, and then if it were a possibility, how would I broach that with you, and what kind of survey documents and what kind of proposals would that look like? So this was a very, very preliminary conversation, just in terms of fact finding. So obviously this information regarding the channels is helpful. I'll be able to submit my foil and get the information and see where the channels are. And then I think it sounds like I'll come back to you. And if I have significant room, that would mean meaningful expansion for me, where I could actually, achieve the, new slips that were of benefit to me. Then I would come back and let you guys know what that looked like and whether it would be possible. And then we could have a more informed conversation. Is there anything else that I should be bringing to the table on our next conversation in terms of, or that's probably the most important thing to make note of is the north-south channel.
Hey, Jeremy, this is Rick.
Yeah. Hey.
Usually the trustees weigh in on this after the projects are, more thought out. We're usually the last to go on these things.
Gotcha.
So just so you're aware, you have, I think, other permitting objectives that you need to accomplish for something like this.
Okay.
So my advice would be to really understand those things, because the trustees usually defer until all the technical work and, the other agencies have specific skills that apply to this review process, and they are sometimes and often considered by our board.
Okay, and then can you just tell me on all of the places I need to touch before I end up in your purview? Is there specifically who I would be talking to?
You really need to speak to a planning attorney, someone that's familiar with the process, and let them give you some advice. That would be my recommendation right now, is really get with someone who knows the process and is well-versed and respected in this community that you will be, going before in these different boards, and get some good knowledge for yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, obviously, this call was simply generated just because I was drawn here by other parties in the community. You know, at some of the other departments. But I will certainly go back and work with a planning attorney and start to develop some of the ideas of what I need before I come back to you guys. You know, I wish I could have gotten a little more information on, like, is this, like, in very generic terms, is this possible if it's not impeding anything in the waterway or in the community or anything like that? But yeah, certainly I'll come back with more knowledge and more proposed structure the next time I come back. But I appreciate your time, and
can I make a suggestion here?
absolutely, please.
Probably the most productive use of everybody's time here might be if you meet with some of the members of that committee privately, show up with a survey, show up with a current copy of your CO, and it would give our board members the opportunity to pull whatever information is in our files on this thing. And maybe we can give you better advice than you're getting here tonight.
Okay. That would be great. I appreciate your time, and I will certainly check back in shortly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right. Matt, do we have anyone else on the line for public comment?
You have nobody waiting, so you're free.
Okay. Excuse me. Let's move on to new business. Okay, so we have a legal interest that we need to discuss. There was an injury at Ditch Plains, personal injury. I believe it involves a child. And they have brought a suit against the town, the trustees, and I think anybody else who was in the area at the time. Chris, would you want to talk about this?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to chip in on this, you guys. This one, although it's going to be new information to most, if not all of us on the board here, this is actually arising out of an injury that took place in the water at Ditch Plains Beach in 2016. So this is a lawsuit that's been ongoing for 4 years now and counting. And the plaintiffs in this lawsuit named both the town and the trustees as defendants. The reason why it's coming up again now is twofold. One, the current defendants are now countersuing the plaintiffs as well as us and naming the town and the trustees as, countersue defendants. So that's what has come up in the last 30 days and why this has now arrived on our desk. This is the first I've heard of this suit. I had the opportunity to read through the different various complaints and responses dating back the last 4 years. And I spoke to Francis and Jim Grimes about this, and all three of us were struck with surprise that the trustees, who clearly make no claim of ownership to the beach at Ditch Plains and have no jurisdiction whatsoever regarding any of the goings-on in Montauk and the Montauk beaches. So it's a bit surprising and appalling that we're still on this thing 4 years later. That being said, we have been kind of piggybacking, I guess, unbeknownst to me or the rest of this board, with the attorney group that was chosen by the town of East Hampton. And my recommendation going forward is to immediately cease with that strategy and go on board with our own independent counsel to swiftly and go ahead and apply for a summary judgment type proceeding here, because we don't have jurisdiction. I'm not a litigation attorney. I don't know the language as well as a litigation attorney might, but this seems like one that's pretty black and white, cut and dry. We don't have jurisdiction, and a motion for summary judgment drafted by a litigation attorney should be able to pretty efficiently take care of this and put this one behind us. So that's the long and short of it. I think there are several attorneys around town that we've used before that would be well suited for this type of representation. I don't think it would be a long and expensive one, but somebody like the Matthews, Kirsten Cooley team comes to mind, of having some experience with us in the past and being well suited to represent us in this type of litigation. So at this time, I'm happy to answer questions as well, but I would recommend reaching out, and I'd be happy to spearhead that effort, reaching out to Brian Matthews of Matthews, Curson, Cooley, and seeing if this is something he'd be willing to take on and hopefully dispose of rather quickly.
If this has to come to a vote, I'd like to make a motion that basically we give Chris the direction to go and explore some other attorneys on this.
I'll second
You have a second?
Chris, I have a question.
Yes.
Have you talked to the town, whoever's town used for the attorneys on this case?
I have not spoke to them yet. This landed on my desk on Friday afternoon, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that. That's something in addition to reaching out to attorney groups I'm happy to do, and I planned on doing anyway, is one, reach out to the council, the independent counsel for the town, as well as John Jelnicki, and just find out what exactly is going on. But that's something I haven't done, but I'm happy to do and planned on doing anyway, John.
My question, I guess another quick follow-up question would be, would it be wise to do that before we go hire somebody in case something actually has transpired here?
Certainly. Yeah, that's not a problem. And I agree with that strategy.
Do we know? Go ahead.
We're in an adversarial position with the town on this one specific issue, aren't we?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't recall this ever coming across our desks or having a discussion about this. Now, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but apparently our board, or maybe our legal counsel, decided that we would basically fall in with the town's attorneys on this and let them represent us. And guys, from the very start here, there would be no reason for us to engage with the same counsel as the town, for the simple fact that the town truly is a defendant on this. It is a town beach, it's town-owned property. And I think, as all of us know, we haven't owned Montauk since the late 1800s. So we're not, we've been named in this lawsuit, but this is not our land. It hasn't been our land. It's not really so much a matter of jurisdiction as a matter of land ownership here. And we're not an interested party here. It's as though somebody has fallen down on the street in front of our house. But when they actually looked at where they fell down, they found out that they fell down on the sidewalk. It was past our property corners. It was on public land. We should not be named in this suit. And I think the best way to get extricated here is to have another attorney deal with it, because let's face it, it's in the town's attorney's interest to keep us in this case. And that's probably how this thing has gone on as long as it has in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this either for the past 5 years. I don't recall ever being brought up before. So
this is the first time I'm hearing
about the history here, and move this along.
Yeah.
I believe this was just. Can hold on one second, Susan. We just received this sometime in July. Is that right, Chris?
I believe July 7th was what we received the latest, which was the defendants countersuing the plaintiffs. But I have no recollection of anything coming across my desk prior to that. And we've been named defendants dating back to 2016. So I don't know, as far as service of process historically, I don't know. Again, this thing's ripe for us to be able to have a motion for summary judgment and hopefully get out of this quickly.
I can't imagine it's going to be a real big deal.
No, I don't think so.
And I don't think it's the first time that we've been named in a lawsuit that we had no jurisdiction in.
I'd just like to chime in and say this is the first time I've heard of this case. Was today, and I agree with Jim that we should be single and separate, and with you as well, Chris, that we should hire our own attorney, exit as fast as possible. We are not legally held accountable since we don't own any property in Montauk, and I think it would be easy for us to, or should be easy for us to get remove ourselves from this case because we have no jurisdiction. So I would go with what Chris's recommendation is, and if anyone wants to make a motion, or I'll make a motion
You
to.
made a motion, if you could spell it out again, or word it a little more so that we know what he's wording. Give Chris the leeway to just so I can write it down as a motion, and or if you want to rephrase it.
That we have Chris go ahead and seek out an attorney for to represent our interests, and then to come back to us at the next meeting or sooner if we need to, and move forward with our own attorney.
Well, we already have a motion and a second, so all we have to do.
Oh, okay. So we'll vote. All right.
All in favor?
What was?
Aye.
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 Hey, what was this a surfing accident? It's a kid surf into another kid or an adult or something? Is that what happened?
That's right. Yep. That's exactly it, Ben. It was, I believe, two children, somewhere around the age of 14, collided in the surf zone within the lifeguard flag. So their argument is the negligent supervision and negligent management of the beach and the lifeguards not keeping the surfers out of the swimming area type of argument. But it might have even just been a boogie board. It's unclear in the claim. They call it a surf boogie board. So I don't know what a surf dash boogie board is. It's either a surfboard or a boogie board. I don't know. Either way, it's pretty clear that we shouldn't be involved. So my plan to do is I'll give a call to John Jilnicki tomorrow, and I'll also reach out to this law firm that's representing the town, get some more info, and then go from there as far as seeking out attorneys to represent us. So
Now I ask who the attorneys are that are representing the town.
I have to pull it. Hang on a second.
I'm just curious.
Zaklulowicz, Puzo, and Morrissey, PC, Islip Terrace, New York, Sunrise Highway. So I don't know any of these attorneys. I don't recognize the name, but happy to reach out to them and make an introduction and find out what's going on.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on. Let's move on to Napeague Lazy Point. We have a request from Charles Whitmore, leaseholder of 192 Shore Road, Lot 28N, in Lazy Point, for permission to sublet his property to Mark Webb, a current leaseholder in Lazy Point.
I spoke to Chris and actually today, and he's read the affidavit of domicile and so forth, and he reviewed it. And Chris, you've agreed it looks good and fine. And
yeah, so I'll just chip in real quick, Susan. So this is a nice blueprint for us, especially for the newer trustees and myself going forward. Last 2 weeks ago, we had the assignment come up, and we were able to go through the rules and regs on the assignment of lease, which is obviously the long-term assignment of the entire lease for the remainder of the 35-year term. Now we're looking at a recommendation to sublease a current lease, and the rules and regs do a really nice job of being cut and dry, making it clear what the requirements are for a sublease. These guys, obviously saw the rules and regulations and adhered to that. Arlene sent me over the paperwork, and Susan as well today went through that, and everything looks really good to be able to move forward on this. So, no issues here, and I think this is ready for a vote for you guys, or at least a discussion and then a vote on whether or not we're going to allow them to sublease this parcel.
And I'd also like to point out that Mark Webb is selling his residence, and that will be closing soon, I think. And we've approved that. So would you like, I'll make a motion that we approve the lease, the sublease.
I'll set pending any further discussion. I'll second that.
Okay, can we, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, let's move forward with it. All right, 3 Mile Harbor. Okay, I have East Hampton Point Marina. We just did that. So we're up to old business. 2020 largest clam contest. This should be interesting.
Well, I thought we should put it on the agenda because we typically would have this contest in September. Last year was October, but it was a little late. So I just wanted to bring it up and in everything that's going on, just to say that I think that this is probably something that we're going to have to forego this year for safety purposes. And it's disappointing. We had Paul Roman who was going to make the clam chowder, but I'd like to take a vote on this and get people's thoughts about it, because I think it would be in the best interest of our community that we have to cancel it this year.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think, I think the event that we typically put on with the public's attendance, I think that probably is problematic given the COVID situation. But
Right.
we don't have a crystal ball as to where we're going to be a month from now. But I think we could have, this is a kids' event at the end of the day. I think we can very much have the largest clam contest. We can perhaps do it very much like we do these meetings. We can do it on LTV. We can award the prizes. And unfortunately, we can't have the social event, but I'd hate like hell to deprive the kids of this event and the prizes. And I think we can go out to the community and try and solicit some of the prizes. We may not be as successful as we have been in years past, but I really don't see what stops us from putting on the event, in the sense that I think we can do this with a few people, observe the social distancing rules, and let's face it, everybody's out there clamming, everybody's out there fishing. We keep whittling down the things that people have to do. I think this is an opportunity to basically retain some normality here in our lives.
Well, let me ask you, Jim, when you mentioned doing something like a Zoom presentation like the high school did when we did the graduation and the awards ceremony, or are we I'm speaking to the issue of having a physical gathering as we did last year, because all the kids huddled together, families huddled together, people are at picnic tables.
Susan,
so that's my concern.
We're not going to be able to, clearly, we may not be able to do that social event along those lines. But as far as collecting the clams, weighing the clams, awarding the largest clam, it involves a total of 3 people. I think we could pull that off. I think we could perhaps try and make some arrangements to broadcast this. People will watch it remotely. Any awarded prizes can certainly be picked up or that in advance. Or, guys, what we could do, because we get these clams the day before, we can actually weigh them up and have the winners notified and have them come and receive their prizes, and do this in a very safe and secure manner, and not completely abandon this.
Yeah, maybe participants only.
Yeah. It's like a game.
I'm wondering if people
participation.
Most people have iPhones and videotape themselves, so perhaps we could structure it around, if you're going out specifically for this contest, videotape your child or yourself with your kids and show us your clam and use that as part of the program.
What are we going to do? Manage imaginary clam weighing?
Well, no, I think that it would be fun for the community to see, because we did it with the high school. The high school did a great job of the graduation evening of the award ceremony. Every organization videotaped, spoke about the students who won, and each person who won was announced. So I think it would be kind of fun and cute to see the actual kids. As you say, this is a child's event for the most part, that if people videotaped on their iPhone, they can send that to us and we can put that together. Matt, maybe we could work together with you on that. Put together videos that people would send in who are participating in the clam contest.
I understand what you're saying. You would have to get a hold of LTV's.
Right. Okay.
Mike Clark first and see what we can do with that.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to go and check that out and see if we could work that way.
May I make a suggestion?
Of course.
This isn't, I mean, we can't plan this event here at this meeting. Can a couple people work on an idea on how to do this, and we talk about it at our next meeting?
Okay.
Great
I think,
idea.
Jim, didn't you name Ben as the chairperson this year?
Yeah, he did.
That's-
Yeah, Ben is the chair. Ben is the official chairperson of this event.
That's correct, Jim. Thank you. So as the chairperson, I'd like to chime in here real quick. And so just there was a virtual sandcastle contest this weekend, and that worked out really well. And I had a lot of fun watching kids make sandcastles. So I think we could do a blend of people posting some stuff, finding their clams, and then we do the weigh-in thing as well. But that's something we could discuss, not during the meeting. But I think these are both great ideas, and there's a way to blend them together. Sure.
Okay. Due to some technical difficulties right now, we are not live on channel 22. However, we are live on YouTube. So I just want to let the board know.
Okay.
Okay.
How do I find YouTube?
Ben, I'll be happy to work with you on this, on the clam contest, and see what we can come up with.
But yeah, good idea, Jim. I think we could still do all the weighing, and I think it can go on. It's just going to be modified to the current times.
Well, I think it's going to be modified
Obviously.
to current times, and I think what we can do, we can actually do the weigh-in. We've typically done it, whatever, at noon or 1 o'clock. We could actually do it that morning, have notified the winners, and they actually could come by and pick up their prizes and stuff. So, you know, you're not depriving the kids, you're not depriving everybody the opportunity to participate in this thing.
Yeah. Plus, clamming is a great social distancing activity. So,
exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
I agree 1,000%.
Okay, so we'll look forward to a presentation next week on next meeting on how we're going to do this. All right, you ready to move on?
Good. Sounds good.
Okay. Old business seaplane legislation. Susan, I think you brought that in.
Yes, I had spoken to John Jilnicki after our last meeting. Chris had pointed out some suggestions that he wanted John to incorporate into that amendment with the town. And John, I spoke to him on Thursday or Friday, and he said he would get that out to us today, which he did, and all of you were emailed it. But I think we should probably let everyone have time to review everything that was sent. I don't know, Chris, were you able to read through the amendment and see that things were to your specifications, and was it satisfactory? I can't hear. Oh, you need to turn on your sound. Your sound.
Yep, I know. I'm in. Okay. I was able to read, I read through this, and, John does a nice job of drafting these up. So I thought overall it was fine. The section that identifies, now I'm on page 3, and it was also put in highlighting, that identifies the trustee authority. I thought it was good, but, could be a little bit stronger, akin to some of the language we saw in the Sag Harbor expanded jurisdiction. This code will not impede the rights the trustees may have now or in the future, or jurisdiction or authority. So it's good, but I'm going to make a recommendation to him that just to kind of strengthen that language a little bit in favor of the trustees. But that's only going to take a day. I can get that off to him tomorrow. So I'm pretty much okay with it. Barring
So
one
we'll
more
table
update.
this until our next meeting, and hopefully everyone will have a chance to read it thoroughly and take a vote then. All right, the town is just looking for a letter of support at this juncture.
I just have a question. We don't have any jurisdiction in the area they're talking about anyway. Is that correct? I mean, they're talking about...
The bodies of water are trustee waters in the original.
That's currently in the code already.
Well, that's what this amendment is. They want, they are suggesting now that the seaplanes are not permitted to land on the beach. I know there's been quite a lot of seaplane landings over at Devon Yacht Club.
I know.
And so this is addressing that. The seaplane restricted prohibited areas, and whereas they used to come right up to the beach, they now, I believe it's 1,500 feet from the shoreline. In the original proposed amendment. All beaches, waterways, and tributaries in Montauk, and all beaches and waterways within the boundaries of the town of East Hampton, and all waterways within the township, including all waterways that fall within a distance of 1,500 feet from the shoreline. That's, I think, the big thing for safety purposes, and
That's town's jurisdiction, period.
Sorry, Jim?
That's the town's jurisdiction, period.
Right.
So, Chris, am I correct in thinking that because this legislation will replace the current legislation, and that this legislation is then also naming trustee harbors and beaches, that's the reason for this language relative to the trustees in this legislation?
That's correct, John.
Okay. On the original proposed amendment scope, it does name at the end of the sentence, under the jurisdiction and control of the town board of East Hampton or the town trustees. So it's a matter of safety issues, certainly. And I personally think it's a good thing that we protect our beaches and our people. But
so Chris, you're going to play with the language a little bit?
Correct.
Okay, great. So we'll table this for tonight. Anybody else have any questions on this?
I don't.
All right, move on to committee reports. Aquaculture, mosquito larvae survey.
Well, John, do you want to start? We seem to be the troubled polygon area, but do you want to start around? Oh, your sound. Okay.
Well, the high tide this week, the storm was Tuesday. High tide was Tuesday. I mean, the moon tide was Tuesday. So we went on Wednesday, really being that the tide will come in, the mosquitoes the eggs will hatch in the water and then start to develop. So you need a day or two after the expected high water in order to determine what kind of larvae you're going to see. We actually did, at least in the Springs Fireplace Road side of Acaponic, we saw quite a few larvae. They were very late stage, and even some almost ready to develop into flying insects. However, on the Old Stone Highway side of the harbor, they really didn't find anything, actually, the day. So there was some spraying that took place on the Springs Fireplace Road of the highway. I guess we'll be going again next week, probably midweek, if we can all be free for that time period, because the next moon is a midweek moon. That's all I have to say.
Edwina von Gaal is my team partner, and we no longer cover the northern section of the harbor because we've never seen any mosquito larvae there. But in the middle part, we consistently see the same exact hotspots. And so I've been in touch with the Nature Conservancy about one particular property that consistently has, they have the right to mow down to the harbor, but they've also used a lawnmower that has dug up the property. And in fact, last week, when mostly all of us saw 3 and 4 and then pupae mosquito larvae, this particular area of a hotspot was filled with pupae. Only pupae. So we're encouraging people who live on the harbor to please make sure that you do not create new areas where puddles can accumulate. It's interesting, some of the salt marsh that we survey repeatedly has very large bodies of water that never dissipate and have no larvae whatsoever. And I did show the beetle picture, I think, which turned out to be, in fact, pupae, tumblers they're called. On the cup, the last meeting that I had attended. The Filippelli property, which comes all the way out to the salt marsh, is an area that is new, that has pupae in it and mosquito larvae. And there are boards there that have been put down to cross over a runnel area, and that has created a nice nesting place and habitat for the larvae. So we've moved those boards after speaking to Nicole and the Nature Conservancy, that if we needed to do that. So you're just gonna have to hop over. But we have 3 definitive areas that are hotspots. And again, that is targeted with pellets, and the pellets are a combination of both the methoprene and the BTI. This was I think this particular survey that we did last week showed the most mosquito larvae that we've seen all summer. Although I've spoken to some people who live on the harbor, and they say that they're just inundated with mosquitoes. But we have to remember too, we can't wipe out the mosquito population. They serve as food. They are food for fish, food for our dragonflies and so forth. So, but.
And Susan, I'd like to point out that the salt marsh mosquito is not the only mosquito that's...
Right, it's not the one that's at home. You're exactly right, John, yes. Salt marsh mosquitoes are different than home mosquitoes. And that is it, I guess.
Good. Anybody have any questions?
There is an event taking place on a webinar, and I thought I would mention it to everyone. It's open to the public. It will be held on August 20th, Thursday, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it is entitled, Dr. Nicole Mayer suggested anyone who wants to sign up for it. It would be a good program. And Judith Weiss, who is a member of Rutgers University, she's a marine biologist. She knows several of the 3 of the panelists, and said it would be an excellent presentation. It's called Salt Marsh Revegetation Through Runnels, an Adaptation Technique to Enhance Resilience. And again, that's webinar Thursday, August 20th, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And there is a website to go to, but you can, and they don't give a number, but I can post it again for everybody here. And if you'd like to sign up for it, I think it would be very interesting to see how a restoration of a salt marsh is done.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that it would be an interest, it's in our interest, this techniques that this webinar will describe, because they'll probably be the techniques that we'll be looking at to eliminate some of these hotspots, which have been created in many cases by human activity, old fence lines and mosquito ditch tailings, if you will, that have been thrown up and block water from draining. So that's basically what this webinar will be dealing with. We'll probably be moving into this phase of this project in the hopefully next year.
Okay, so I'll send it out again to everybody by email with the connection to the webinar. Okay. Thanks, John.
All right.
Maybe we
Susan.
could add a largest mosquito contest to our fall games this year. Sorry, I just had to add a little humor. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, move on to beaches. Susan, I think you wanted to talk about litter management in the village.
I'm going to skirt over that just very briefly here and just ask everybody who's out enjoying the beaches right now to please, whatever you take on the beach, take off the beach. We've had it, according to Becky Molinaro Hansen, we've had a very successful summer so far, but they've hired a couple of people at night to help clean up and in the village as well as the beaches. But I am going to ask Jim and Tim to pick out some times that might be available. And she's very happy to meet with us going forward to discuss, beaches. But whatever you bring to the beach, please take off. We want to keep our beaches beautiful.
Okay. And also litter management in the community. Is that you, Susan?
Well, that's the same message. Everybody do their part, pick up. I'm going to throw out this because I'm very grateful to her and to Bill Taylor. I want to thank you very much. and Ann Welker, who's Southampton trustee, for being with me this weekend. We did some good stuff to keep our beaches clean.
All right. Looks like we have education committee update.
Well, Tim and Ben,
All right.
we haven't been able to do too much with, as you know, due to COVID, but for next year, I'm hoping that we can talk about what we began to try to plan together with Surf Rider. Would be a school gathering of beach cleanups, and I think Ben and Tim, you want to chime in here on that?
Not too much to chime in on. Obviously, there's not really any real opportunities to clean beaches in groups, but going forward, yes, I think it's a great idea, and we should try and pursue it when the pandemic, recedes.
Yeah, we're thinking maybe if we're lucky, we can get something together next year, but incorporating all the schools and have a competition and involve the parents, it would be fun. And, whoever brings in the most garbage in terms of weight, maybe we award them something, pizza night or something, bowling, whatever, but that's in the future. And the other thing I want to mention is that the Captain William J. Ryson Scholarship Fund, the winners update, we do finally have letters from both recipients. Our first winner was Jennifer Ortiz Valverde, and she submitted her information that we require to show that she has indeed registered for Boston University. So congratulations to Jennifer, and that award will be going out to her shortly. And Alfredo Chavez, who was our second runner-up, he has sent in all of his information, and that award has already been mailed out. Thank you so much, Arlene and Lori, for doing that. And then I would just like to talk about the this little item, which I made one for myself, and suddenly it took off. I posted it on social media, and we have people who want them from Sweden, Texas, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. They're 100% cotton. It's the Save a Fish and Balloon Pollution, and they're $20. And of course, that all goes to the Captain Ryson Scholarship Fund. But I think this is going to be a winner because I think we're going to be wearing masks for a while. So I'm excited about that. And that brings me to another old business, really, where we had discussed a while ago this object, the square. It's a little square device that we can use for credit cards. And Charlotte Sasso of Stewart's introduced me to it at our last largest clam contest. And it allows us to immediately, get funds from somebody who can use a credit card rather than having to deal with cash. So I wanted to ask the Finance Committee if they could discuss this once again. I had emailed information about it when I first introduced it, but I'll be happy to send it again to you and see if, I think, Francis, you would prefer that we use something like this rather than I think I was told that our own bank offers something that's similar, but you prefer to use this.
My view on that is if we're going to take cards, I think we would be better off with something like Square because they have a much larger system, and if something were to go wrong, I think we'd have a better chance of having it rectified quickly than through a small bank and whatever they're doing. But that's just my view.
All right. Well, can I give you
I thoroughly support taking credit cards.
Okay.
Hey, Susan, may I say something? This is Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Hey there. I'd like to see this moved along. I think it's important that the trustees make it easy for the public to engage with them. So I think this is a step in that direction. So I'd like to see this moved along maybe at the next meeting.
Okay. Well, I'll send out the information that I had, and it's very successful. Charlotte and her son were showing me how to use it at the clam bake. And it seems, she said, this is, people use it all the time with us. And it's a very good device. It's legitimate. So I'll send you the information that I have. And we'll put it on the agenda for next time. And I appreciate it.
Sounds good.
One last thing I was thinking of, we have so much inventory on these items, and I thought before school starts this year that maybe I would take a weekend and set up a tent in front of our building and have, social distancing, everybody wear a mask. And I would, before school starts, see what we can do to raise some funds for the scholarship fund. And I wanted to know if that would be, okay with the rest of the trustees that I do this.
I'm sorry, Susan, I missed that one.
Oh, okay. I'd like to have a weekend that I take, and I'm happy to do it by myself if anybody wants to join me, set up a tent in front of our offices and see what kind of merchandise I can sell to raise funds for our scholarship fund for right before school starts, perhaps, summer's end, and because we haven't been able to do anything to raise any funds this year. Would that be appropriate? Does anybody have any thoughts about that? I, in particular, am very, very careful about social distancing for myself, and I would make sure that everybody wore a mask, and it would be outside. So, any thoughts?
Very busy area, that's for sure.
A dizzy area?
Busy.
Oh.
Very populated. You're gonna have lemonade?
On our front lawn? On the weekend?
Hey, Chris, you out there?
Yes,
I was just curious.
Yes.
Is there any reason why the trustees shouldn't do fundraising on their front lawn?
Fundraising on the front lawn.
Well, we did this at the clam bake, if you remember, the largest clam contest. I had a tent there.
I don't see why not. As long as you're under, social distancing guidelines, then yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
We probably just have to be cognizant of no more than 50 people at one time too, right? That'd be part of
Yes, but everybody has to have, I make little circles so you're 6 feet apart. So it's not as though we'd have a whole group on the lawn. And I'm willing to give it, to do this on a Saturday and a Sunday before school starts.
Anybody opposed?
No.
Concerns?
I think it's fine. I don't think there's any real concerns here.
Okay, thank you. I just have to pick a weekend and I'll let you know.
Okay. Northwest Creek, beach access and Millville Road.
Mile Hill Road. That's
Mile Hill Road, I'm sorry.
This is in response to an inquiry we had, I guess, a suggestion of concern from a citizen who found it hard to negotiate her way and her mother's way down the trail from the road to the beach, which last winter was improved for vehicle access with some large rocks. That was maybe difficult for elderly people, particularly to negotiate their way down there. Tim and I met, we discussed this last meeting. We met last week with members of the Nature Preserve Committee and Land Management Department of the town to discuss some ideas. And one of the ideas was to put some stairs down the bluff for pedestrians, so they didn't have to walk down the vehicle access trail. And another suggestion that came out of this meeting was possibly might be a little bit quicker fix, something that could be done right off the bat, was just put some smaller size rock and sand down to try to smooth out the trail so people can get down there safely short term while we work with the town to get some kind of longer term pedestrian fix down. So The Nature Preserve Committee will be discussing this on Thursday. Tim, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a great synopsis. Really, everyone seems to be in agreement that this is something we should really do, and I firmly agree that even if we put some 3/4 inch stone and sand as a quick stop gate, hopefully in the next week or something, and then really look at the possibility of a path. There's a bench there. Maybe, we're looking at the possibility of stairs, but then there's erosion issues. And so we're looking at it pretty, everyone was in agreement at our meeting. It was Scott Wilson and Andrew and Rick Whalen and Jack Cohen. And, we're looking at it and we're trying to address it and we're going in the right direction.
Good. I have a question. At the end of Mile Hill, the main entrance that everyone takes is to the left, but there is a path that's to the right that you really are going to stumble over blocks and things, but that's another area that people use to go up and down. Is that an area that you're thinking of doing anything to, or just letting it grow over and be what it is? Because it's a pretty dangerous little path.
Yeah, we were Susan, we were really looking to go left. We were looking to the natural path, and we looked at that, and it's really about safety, and
yeah.
the woman that we were working with is saying that her 80-something-year-old mom has a hard time getting up and down there. And then as we've had a couple meetings down there, and we watched the public go by, and it was dodgy, and they're right on. They need some help there, and it really should be that path to the left.
No, I agree with you. I'm just wondering if maybe the path to the right should be made impossible to pass, because if someone very easily can trip, but it is an area that people walk through. So I'm wondering if maybe we should think about covering that or doing something so that it's not usable at all, because it's dangerous.
Yep, well, that's something we should look at. We weren't looking at it in that aspect. We were looking at it more as accessibility, and and I'm kind of trying to get the thing done as soon as possible, just because there's a lot of people out here. Mm-hmm. I was down there this morning. There was a lot of people down there paddleboarding, kayaking, and I was like, let's get this moving, because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely, good job, and I thank you very much, John. Mm-hmm.
Susan, it's my understanding that where that current vehicle access is actually on a town-owned property. It's a 2-acre site there, and it's a designated nature preserve. Right. So if they put the new foot access over there, then the town can take care of it and maintain it. So
no, I'm totally in agreement. I'm totally in agreement with making the left side be the entrance. I'm just concerned about the right entrance that people do use, and I'm thinking it should not be usable any longer. It should be, because right now people do go down it and come up it, and I'm concerned that if someone is using that they can fall and stumble, because it is used. So
right. What about just putting some more bluestone and sand over there? It's a smaller, like a 2 or 3 foot wide path. Make 2, and you can keep people further apart. I don't know if you guys have the resources or bandwidth, but
or eliminating it altogether was my thought.
Well, I don't think that's going to work myself. I think that
you may create more traffic.
That wasn't any officially made path. People cut that path themselves. They try to cut it off. I think
yeah, Susan, let's look at it. Let's look at it together. Whoa. Let's look at it together, and we'll look at it, Susan. We'll look at whether it's smarter to create a better path on the right side or eliminate it. We'll look at it together. We'll look at it as a committee.
Good. Okay.
So thank you for that suggestion, because I didn't look at it that way, and maybe it should be looked at that way, and we'll decide.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for everything that you're doing on this project.
So,
no problem.
We thought that it might be something that we should write a letter of recommendation to the Nature Preserve Committee, Town Board, Highway Department to undertake some of this work. Does that
make sense? Should I make a motion requesting that the clerk send a letter of recommendation for this work?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Hey, guys, this is something that is on the agenda for the Nature Preserve Committee on Thursday. So they may very well act on this. It sounds like you got really good feedback from them on your meeting. So I think they're probably going to support this as well. And I'm sure Steve Lynch will help us out here.
I think this.
That sounds great. I would love to get this done with sometime within the next week if possible. I don't know how quick things move, but it is dangerous, and I think that's one of the reasons why everyone's on top of it. And I just whatever the powers that be, and I spoke to David Lease about it, and he said let's get it done. So whatever we can do to get this thing going, I think is a smart move.
John,
Do
did
we
you
want
have
to
something
consider
to say?
donating funds or material?
The only thing I was going to say is, ultimately the town is going to be asked to do this work. So that's going to be highway and parks, and that'll have to go through the town board.
$400 in and out.
I'm sorry, Bill. I cut your question off there. Bill, you had a question?
Bill, are you there?
Yeah. I was just, I was wondering if we could consider contributing funds or, paying for some of the stone.
Let's wait till they ask us.
I like that.
Actually, we did talk about that. If the town was balking, that we could, possibly undertake something ourselves. But it doesn't sound like that anybody's balking. It sounds like everybody's in agreement and wants to move forward. And I think, David Lee's feedback, informal feedback, is encouraging that the town do the right thing.
All right.
Yep.
So let's see what their plan is and then go from there.
For sure. It's all good.
All right, let's move on to roads, general update, access, and inappropriate use of trustee property. Rick?
Yes, thank you, Francis. As Francis mentioned, we're talking about issues associated with accessing the roads, litter on the roads, damage to the roads, revegetation efforts in some areas. Some of the recent high-use areas that we've been talking about are within the Grace Estate, Old Sag Harbor Road, Town Line Road, the roads found within Barcelona Neck. Regarding access, we've talked about the potential for maybe trying a gate somewhere. Gates do exist on the roads within the Grace Estate. Cutting off the public access is a huge decision. I don't know if there's other options the board can consider, possibly game cams or some way of keeping some tabs on usage on the properties. The litter has been pretty extensive, just ranging from beer parties and bonfires, which are very dangerous, the fire part of it, to actual construction debris being left, which, will take a significant effort. Damage by avoiding potholes and sinkholes and just kind of bushwhacking through vegetated areas, and neighborhoods trying to revegetate after the pine beetle blight and devastation that's taken place. I think well-intentioned, but I think some members on the board, Jim included, have mentioned, there's probably a correct path forward with that, with proper planning. There's some opportunities for cleanups now as a result of the litter. Francis, did you have anything to share on that, possibly?
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Francis?
I don't think I have that cleared yet, Rick. So I would prefer to hold on to it to the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay.
But, I think, to everyone's theme tonight, I think all of our properties are getting more use, and cleanup is definitely something we're going to be dealing with, hopefully in cooperation with the town and other agencies. I am continuing to review the town rules and regs regarding revegetation. I owe Jim and Chris a follow-up. Been a busy time of the year, but definitely want to move that forward. And also the same thing with contact to homeowners, particularly on Old Sag Harbor Road with the tree fall and all of the pine beetle, black pine cutting being stacked up on the trustee property. So not that much to report, but hopefully a more robust report at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rick. 3 Mile Harbor, an update on the rain gardens and head of the harbor. John?
Okay.
She can stay.
All right, I've got so the bulkhead work at the head of the harbor is finished, and
It's really hard
did a really nice job. And our concern with that work was, sorry for my hesitation, I'm trying to figure out how to share the screen. Our concern with the work was getting some kind of filtration in line with the road drains that come off 3 Mile Harbor Road and go through the bulkhead. And talking with Natural Resources about this, we learned that there's a rain garden project, part of CPF 20% fund for environmental projects has been a rain garden project in 3 Mile Harbor area has been approved. Is this on the screen now?
Yep.
So I just thought I'd go through some of the engineers' diagrams for what's planned in 3 Mile Harbor, the lower part of 3 Mile Harbor, around the head of the harbor. So this is just some diagrams of what the rain garden looks like. This one on the left shows a rain garden with a catch basin involved. The water would come off the road, fill the rain garden. If it exceeds the top of the catch basin, it would spill over into the catch basin and flow down the drain pipe. And the one on the right would be just one that's constructed without an overflow into a catch basin. So there are 4 areas in the harbor that rain gardens are proposed. This is the head of the harbor area. This is the bulkhead that was just done along here. This is the lawn around the parking area. So this rain garden here and this rain garden here would take care of the road drains. This one on the right is quite small, but the red area is really the only area that the engineers have identified as the watershed of that particular drain. This rain garden on the left is a little larger, and this yellowish, brownish area up here is what they've identified as the watershed for this garden associated with this road drain. And there'll be 2 smaller gardens on either side of the lawn, the grassy area over by the park. Now this grassy area, there was a French drains put in underneath this several years ago when the south side of the bulkhead was worked on. And it collects water from all this upland. Quite a bit of water comes down here. And it ultimately drains through the pipe on the south side of the bulkhead right about here. That water runs constantly, 24 hours a day. There is another project through the CPF fund that's been approved as well, that will be putting a permeable reactive barrier in line here just before the water exits into the harbor. So between these rain gardens And this permeable reactive barrier, there should be some improvement to the water quality that's being drained into the harbor from upland.
Yep.
So these are just some close-ups.
John, would you do me a favor? Could you go back to that slide that you spent quite some time on? I couldn't hear what you said about the red area to the right because I can't see the legend. What is the red area?
The red area is the watershed, the amount of water that this road drain here has to deal with,
Okay.
as opposed to this yellowish brownish area here and that goes up the hill on the other side of 3 Mile Harbor Road.
Right.
That's the watershed, according to the engineers, that this particular road drain over here has to handle. So I think basically what they're saying is the road, this part of the road and all this upland, whatever comes, rain falls and goes down the driveways, these houses, ultimately ends up in the road. That's the watershed that this particular road drain
Right.
has to handle.
And the red area to the right is.
That's the road. That's the watershed. What water falls on the road or comes from any upland ultimately goes through this particular road drain over here.
Thank you.
I was surprised at that too. I questioned Melissa about that. It's a very small watershed, but she assures me that the engineers, have looked at the topography and elevations, and that road drain only handles this amount of water.
Thank you very much, Sean.
So this, I won't spend much time on this one. This is some other, all part of the same project, some other rain gardens that will be placed along Fairway Drive, which is a road up the hill to the east of the harbor, and takes access off of Abrams Path. So there'll be, and apparently this is part of the upper watershed of the area that will drain into the harbor. So there's a couple of small rain gardens along this road as well. And then this is Garner's Cove Road. This is south of the head of the harbor, south of East Hampton Marina. The Blend restaurant is on the corner here. There's some small cottages on the other corner. There'll be a couple of rain gardens down near the end of that road, this vicinity, and one at the very end of the road, this little hooked area here. And then finally, along Soakides Road, there will also be some rain gardens placed along the road. So Soakides Road crosses Tanbar Creek. Baymark's Deli is up here on the corner of 3 Mile Harbor Road. There'll be a fairly large rain garden to the east of where the creek crosses the road, and a couple of small ones to the west. That should handle the road runoff from Soakides Road and be able to absorb that water and hopefully take some of the nitrogen out of it. In terms of timing on this, these plans are preliminary. The final plans haven't been received yet. This is probably a project that will begin. So they have to receive the final plans. They have to be approved by the town board ultimately. It has to go through the CPF committee. Then Then the work, part of the final plans will be a bid package put together by the engineers. The work will be put out to bid, and then once that's all completed and the contractors have been chosen, they'll probably prioritize SOCIDEs first. I'm not sure in what order they're planning on or they'll be recommended to proceed with this. We'd like to get the work on 3 Mile Harbor Road done by the bulkhead as quickly as possible, obviously, but there is road work planned for 3 Mile Harbor by the county Department of Public Works that's going to come up this far. So there may be some coordination that has to be done between the Suffolk County's road work and the creation of these rain gardens. So this may be a couple of years off, but that's basically it. So that's kind of what's planned down there and a rough time frame of when we can hope to see some of these things go in.
Is there an order of preference as to which project would be done first, John?
I don't think they're at that point yet, but like I said, I have a feeling maybe the SOCIDE's road work would be done first. That's right next to Danbar Creek.
Right.
That's the main, source of water, that fresh water that flows into the creek.
Mm-hmm.
May warrant the first attack on the nitrogen problem. But I think that'll be a recommendation by the engineers and before the CPF committee and board and for their input, and will be part of that process as well.
Very impressive projects.
And that's great. It's really great.
Yeah. It'll make a big difference in these areas. Come flooding.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on this or comments? All right, well, thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, it's come to my attention that I'm missing a page on the agenda, and we need an update on Georgica Pond. Jim, do you have anything on that?
Well, updates on Georgica Pond. Some of you may know Sarah Davidson did send a email around to everybody this morning. We have got the emergency approval for the algae harvester to work only in Georgica Cove. That work started today.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
Well,
good news.
Well, it's good news and it's bad news, okay? I think the sad thing here is our DEC basically held this application up for an enormous amount of time, and exactly what we were trying to head off is occurring as we speak. We do have a blue-green algae bloom going on in the Georgica Cove area. What happened is, I know several weeks ago we had the pictures that were circulated of the sago pondweed and the cladophora that had basically, you could almost look like you could walk across Georgica Cove. Well, that material has begun to basically break down. The rafted up sago pondweed has now begun to sink. And as that material decomposes, it sets up the ideal conditions for blue-green algae bloom. I hope that the effects of the bloom can be mitigated by the work that's going on in there. But I think what is very disturbing is that the DEC is charged with our environment. And in this case, they failed the environment. And I think we really have to keep an eye on the permit process for the permanent permit. And if we find ourselves in this situation next year, and we still do not have a permit, I think this board has got to be prepared to take physical action on this. And, because.
Self-help.
What's that?
Self-help.
Yes, precisely. So, but it is underway. We'll see how things go from here in.
Now, Jen, this is only a 30-day permit, correct?
Only a 30-day permit. But can I tell you?
No, it'll be helpful, Jim. I'm really glad that this is moving along finally.
Francis,
and
the
too many inputs.
Yeah, the situation. It's amazing how quickly the situation in Georgia Cove changed, because just 10 days ago, that material was all lofted up. You could not sail a boat or that through Georgia Cove. And as of this morning, yes, there still are patches of floating sago and cladophora, but nothing of the size. And it's not that the material went away, it's just sank. And now it's beginning to decompose. And as it begins to decompose, that absorbs oxygen. In a time of the year when the water temperatures are warm, the ability for the water to hold gases is lower. So you have more potential for hypoxic conditions here. It's not a good, there's some good work being done there, but it's being done, unfortunately, under a really stressful situation for the pond.
Jim?
Yeah.
Can that harvester pick up some of that material, even
Well, yes, John, it can, and I'm not sure how successful that was today. There's some pretty severe restrictions on how and what they're able to harvest at this point, and we're trying to be careful about stepping out of bounds with this permit. But yeah, the hope is that you can catch on to this stuff, and that harvester has a conveyor on it, so it does sort of draw the stuff up from the bottom.
Okay.
But I think we want to thank Sarah and the Friends of Georgia for their efforts here.
And I'd like to say one thing real quick, just because I didn't get an email from Sarah on this morning. I just went through my whole email. So if maybe there's a chance that she's using an older list of maybe without the new trustees. So I just want to make a quick note that if Sarah could make sure to include the new trustees on this type of stuff.
And hey, Tim, I took some pictures, Dennis, this morning. I'll distribute those to the other trustee members. We just had no cell service down there today. And
Gotcha. No problem. I'm down there all the time, and I'm definitely interested, and so I just want to be up to date and make sure, because I understand.
Tim, I don't think you were really left. I mean, I guess you were left out purposely, but I think what she does is she contacts the committee.
The committee. Yeah, the committee. I gotcha. Okay, that's fine.
Which is, we're more than happy to forward it. Yeah.
No. However it goes, I don't want to make any waves. I just thought that it was sent to the whole group, and I was like, oh, I didn't see it. So no biggie.
Yeah,
no biggie.
Yeah, I'll be happy to pass it on to you. And anyone else who would like it. I'm
with you, Tim.
Okay. Is there any updates on the kayak wrecks?
Well, we had a conversation at our meeting last month. And since then, I've received a couple of phone calls from members of the public, independent of Mrs. Geller. And, the consensus, honestly, guys, is that the public does not really like the last few kayak racks that we did. When I met with Mrs. Geller, we did walk around. There's some potential spots for some other kayak racks that would be not along the shore. It would be inland a little bit. There's some areas that are somewhat devoid of vegetation. But I think this is something that I'm hoping to catch this week's Nature Preserve Committee meeting, because this is something that we're going to need sort of the cooperation of both the town and the Nature Preserve Committee if we're going to shift the kayak racks. I did speak with Mrs. Geller this week, and I expressed to her that I thought that the best course here was to allow the kayak rack to stay as is through the end of this season, because otherwise it becomes a nightmare for the people if we had to ask people to remove their kayaks. We're close enough to the end of the season. I think it makes more sense. Just run out this season, and before next spring, we'll sort out the new locations. And/or, the worst case scenario here, guys, is we may have to reduce the number of kayak racks and live with the fact that we really can't add any more down there. So that's
carry in, carry out.
Well, that was my feeling from the beginning here. I really feel that this kayak rack situation is a bit of a luxury. I was always under the impression, hey, it's personal watercraft, which means you carry it there, you carry it back. It's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of good gear out there for moving water sports equipment, so it's definitely doable, and that's the direction we got to balance.
Mike, I think our goal here from the beginning was to try and accommodate the needs of the public, and we've done that. I think they're clearly at the last edition of kayak racks. Perhaps we exceeded the carrying capacity of that beach area. But like I said, there was a couple of areas where I think we could relocate those kayak racks that we have there. And, we'll continue to explore some of these other spots. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. And I think we all learned something from this experience, and moving forward, we'll get better. We'll get better at it. But, I want to thank the public for their input on this. I had a very nice conversation with Eileen McCann a week or so ago. And you know what? It's good. It's nice to have the community engaged on this and giving us their opinions. And our job here is to respond to those opinions.
I agree, Jim, 100%. And I've been somewhat involved with this. And I think that, the last kayak rack at Louse Point, there's definitely been some controversy about the placement of that. And I also think that the changing times of the fact that paddle boards are now becoming more and more part of this scenario, that it's not a kayak and canoe rack, because I'm doing settlers landing in 3 Mile Harbor and Mile Hill Road. I was there this morning looking at who's actually got permits and who doesn't. And there's a lot of active, wet, sandy paddle boards that don't have permits. And so I think we have to take that growing popularity into this conversation, because, the world, there's not as many canoers as there are paddle boarders. And so this is an evolving conversation. And I think we should just all be aware that it is evolving and look at it and understand that, how to handle it. And I just want to bring that up, because my my lack of awareness of all of this has come to fruition, and I'm realizing that there's a lot of paddle boards out there. So I just want to throw that out to you guys.
All right.
I would just like to remind the board that these kayak racks came about because there were a lot of kayaks were being stored on the beach in the grass, and they were becoming a nuisance. And it was a way for the trustees to bring that under control and to protect the dune areas. It has since, just as Jim described it, become a luxury. And if we're just going to keep expanding these things to accommodate people's inability to carry their personal gear, I don't see anybody leaving paddle boards on the beaches overnight. I think we're going in the wrong direction, but that's my opinion.
I think that's fair. That's fair.
And Francis, to expand on your point, maybe these racks should only be available to seniors and handicapped folk who can't carry in and carry out, potentially.
That's something to consider.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot, Ben, because that's really my thought process. seeing the usage, and I'm realizing that a lot of people really can't carry it. The people that are getting the rack, they can't carry it. And so that's a great point, Ben.
Thanks. And then people who paddleboard are fully capable of carrying their own paddleboards, I think, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's very
one thing I'd like to see us look at is the codes and the ability of people to leave sailboats on the beach. I've noticed down at Louse Point, early in the season, there was one sailboat down by the curve there. And within a couple of weeks, there was a second sailboat right next to it. And now there's a third one. And they just seem to be multiplying, and they're all in the grass. And it's the same issue that we had with the kayaks way back when. So I think that's something we should take a look at.
Yeah, those are popping up at a ton of beaches, Francis. I've noticed that. They're everywhere.
At the Northwest, where you, Tim, and John are fixing the pathway down to the beach, I had mentioned that there's a large catamaran there, and it's stuffed into the grassland area. And I'm just wondering if that's permissible. I mean, it is sitting on top of the grass, and it's a very large catamaran.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be in the grass. The grass is a protected area.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that catamaran. I haven't seen it on the grass. There is a bare area there that it usually pulls up on. Maybe saw it too. It was on some grass. That catamaran's been there for quite a few years. And that's not illegal. I mean, it's in the code that that's allowable.
Well, John, to that point, is this something our board wants to discuss further, or are we comfortable with the current code?
No, I think that we should discuss it. I mean, we've talked about discussing this several times now.
Right. No, I agree with you.
I think this might be something that we should, get a few.
I mean, landing, launching, and basic maintenance while you're tending to your craft makes sense. But if you need more than 24 or 48 hours to get your kayak or your paddleboard or your sunfish off the beach or your Hobie Cat, they make great trailers for even complex boats like Hobie Cats. So I think it's fair to say that you should have a place to store your craft, and if you want to use the beach for launching, for maintenance, for use, that's fair, but have a home for it as well.
I agree.
I think that's going to take some consideration. It's something that's been in place for a long time. There's, for example, along Hedges banks, there's people with houses there that hold their boats up on the beach, right in front of their houses. We do that. Any waterfront homeowner kind of does that. And,
everybody has to launch at a launching. Is that a permit that the trustees issue, John?
No, that's under the allowable language in the code now. The only. Well,
being allowed to do it and having a permit may be two different things.
Oh, I thought you meant not consider banning it.
No,
You're
I'm
talking
saying,
about permitting it.
Well, I don't know if banning is the right word, but reviewing it definitely, as you're saying.
No, that I agree with. That I agree with.
Because there's derelict boats and there's homeowner boats right in front of their homes. I mean, there are some different situations here, and there are some derelicts, hopefully few. So it's becoming an issue. I think there is, there's more use, obviously, and perhaps more craft as well. And if you have finite racks, you may have to responsibly consider how many craft can be on the beach at one time.
Some communities have, a nice setup, like in Sag Harbor at Havens Beach, where there's an area there where people can pull up their little sailboats. It's a little difficult if you have a JY-15 to launch it every time you want to sail, bring it home. And if there was an area that could be devoted to that, like the kayak areas, rafts are devoted to
Yeah.
kayaks.
You know, that's a very protected beach, and as a result, it's pretty wide, so they have some working room there. Not all of our beaches are quite that generous, and that makes it tricky.
John, going back to Mile Hill.
Good example, though, of what you can do, definitely.
Going back to Mile Hill and the one catamaran that's there, you're saying by code it's permitted to be there in the way that it is? There's no home that it's sitting in front of on the beach. So what happens when we start having 2 and 3 and 4 size boats or similar size Hobies or cats? That's
I think that's why we're talking about this stuff now, and we have.
No, I know, but you said it's permitted.
Yeah.
It's permitted, and it's permitted, especially if someone's home is there, and there's no home.
I don't think the code says anything about anybody's home. The code, I don't have the language in front of me, but you can look it up.
All right. Well, you said it's permissible that cat is allowed on that beach the way it is, and I'm curious as to why is that permissible?
I think because it was a small town that's growing.
Yeah. No, it was used for storing dories on the beach, John. I think for fishing, I think you know as well.
I think it was recreational as well.
No, people did their john boats and did everything on the.
Well, I remember before the kayak wrecks were built that all the local people, because I ride my bicycle there, and I know that everybody had their boats just thrown up on the grasses. With the kayak wrecks, there's now order, and it's nice. But it would be disconcerting to see several size boats the same as this one all lined up on that small beach strip area. So I'm glad that we're having the conversation. I think it's important to have.
Sounds like a winter project to me.
Yeah, sure does.
Well, I would suggest that, a few form sort of an ad hoc committee just to kind of bat some ideas around and be able to present them to the board and go back and refine them. It's going to take some time and effort to try to come up with something that makes sense and is at all comprehensive.
Okay, anyone want to volunteer for that committee? I'll be happy to be on it. I'm sorry?
I knew you were going to say that.
Francis, I'll volunteer to be on that committee. It's important for the water sports community to have a fair balance there, and I think I have a really good perspective on that, so I should step up. I'll take it.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Well, I'm kind of already there by default.
By default?
I got sucked into the kayak detail on Louse Point.
All right. 2, and do you want me there?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay. Join in, Francis, please.
You volunteer. We're not gonna refuse.
Yeah. Okay. So Rick, Jim, and I.
All right. Hey.
And I think one last thing, we have a turtle signs.
Yes. Thank you, Francis. The turtle signs, we've had them for a while. The town now has had them for a while, and I will follow up with the highway department and see if they've actually gotten to putting any of these out. I do not think they have, but I've had several people asking me about them. So,
Jim, I have seen a few around. Not a lot, but I have seen them.
Yeah, but Susan, are they the new ones?
Yeah.
Are they? Because
yes.
I saw a couple of them too that actually I thought I may be looking at old signs because they.
No, these are definitely the new ones. But I haven't seen a lot of them, and I think first group was 24, and then you said that you ordered that.
There's more coming. There's more coming.
Yeah,
but they were going to call me and tell me when they started doing it, so I will.
I have seen them. Definitely have seen them.
I'll get in touch with Mike Wright, and he can get in and take a couple pictures of them. Maybe we'll see some baby turtles, some painteds or snapping turtles crossing the road here in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Okay. And thank you for doing that, Jim.
Well, thank Andy Saban and Sofo.
We did. We sent him a thank you note.
Thanks.
As well as the highway department. So.
All right, great.
Can I interrupt one moment before you go on? If anybody wants to take a green sign and keep it in their garage in the interim, they're in the vestibule of the office. the interim turtle signs.
Okay.
As long as we're talking about signs, I just mentioned that there was some concern on the part of the harbor masters for the crabbing that was going on in Georgia Capon. Apparently, there were a lot of people from out of town coming down and taking hundreds and hundreds of crabs away. So we made up some temporary signs that we were able to post down at the ocean, on the pond, and up on the highway, the end of Beach Lane, and getting some permanent signs that are coming in this week that hopefully can replace them.
Yeah, and I think Harbor Patrol has been a little more diligent about basically, talking to people down there.
I think they were kind of surprised at how many people have been day tripping out here and leaving with literally hundreds of crabs.
Wow.
Without permits, yeah. So.
Well, that's something that's been a problem over the years.
Yeah.
At various times. I've been down there when some what could clearly be described as non-locals came down and filled up a garbage can full of crabs.
Yeah, when I was putting up the sign, I ran across a couple of guys patchogue grabbing.
Yeah.
Well, Marine Patrol found a group of people from Queens.
Yeah.
And it was just a day trip. I don't know where they're parking, but.
Could be the DOT parking area.
Yeah, it's a hike, but you can get there.
Yeah, or a paddle.
Yeah, that's true.
That's also a New York State DEC issue, isn't it?
Regulations in terms of licensing. I think is an East Hampton permit required on the pond?
You need a shellfish permit.
Right,
Yeah,
and there
so
are limits. I think it's
a
50.
violation.
There's a size limit, 5 inches across the carapace. No egg females.
Yep.
All on the side.
No, enforcement's needed all around. It's tough right now. Enforcement is spread thin.
Well, I thank them for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, no, they've been doing a great job, but they are working hard.
All right, let's move on to administrative. We have payment of the bills. It's light this month, Optimum, $136.83, and Staples, $138.47 for color, toner, and paper. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I make a motion to pay the bills.
Well, then I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have no minutes to approve this month, and we have a financial report for the month ended July 30th. Anybody have a chance to review that?
I have not had a chance to look at that. If we could table that until next meeting.
You got it. Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to discuss before we say goodnight?
One last thing, I'd just like to invite the public and the board. I spoke to Lauren Nichols she's the director of the Amagansett Free Library, and it's this Wednesday evening, August 12th at 5 p.m. It is a free virtual event, and you have to register. So you need to go to director of Amagansett.library.org if you want to sign up. And it is Chris Paparo of Fish Guy Photos, and it's entitled From Plankton to Whales, Why Our Local Waters Are Worth It. So I think it'll be fascinating because Chris does a great job with marine photos underwater, and it is related to, of course, all of us who live here on the east end of Long Island. So I highly recommend it. It's going to have photos of fish kills, harmful algae blooms, oil spills, beach closures, and a lot of environmental information with regard to our marine life and our waterways, our oceans. So again, it's this Wednesday evening at 5 p.m., August 12th, and go to director@Amagansett.library.org to register for this free event. It might be something good since we've all been stuck at home, and especially great for the kids too, to learn about all the species of marine life that live in our oceans.
Sounds great. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, anybody else?
Notice that there's nobody on the line.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
I'll be second. John, you're first.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay.
Thank you.